Hi, I'm Anna Sawyer. I'm the Social Media and Marketing Director for Trada, and welcome to How to Beat Goliath with PPC. So in this webinar, we'll discuss some key strategies for using paid search to outperform even the biggest advertisers. We'll go through the strategies, and then we'll be happy to answer your questions at the end. So go ahead and type them into the question box as they occur here. So with me today is Matt Hessler. He's the account manager for Trada.
Hi everybody, thanks for joining us today.
Matt Hessler is a PPC and SEO expert, and he does all of the account management here at Trada. Today we'll teach you how to beat the Goliaths of the advertising world by being smart about PPC. We'll talk about writing compelling ad copy, using dynamic keyword insertion, exploring the long-tail keywords, constantly curating your campaign, researching runtimes, and testing networks. The truth is, with paid search, you can beat the big advertisers because PPC levels the playing field.
And it's true. I think people hear that expression a lot, that pay-per-click's done this great revolutionary thing. The trick is it's not just the medium, it's the techniques on how to really maximize your effectiveness in PPC. And hopefully we can teach you guys some things today that'll help you, really take Goliath out and get your ads in top position.
So here's a good example of how a small business can rank with a big one on the very first page. This is a real example of David beating Goliath. Yesterday I typed cheap computers into Google, and this is the first page of search results. So here we say the big players, Dell, HP, and Microsoft, on the same page as the local small dealers. You really couldn't have this kind of level playing field in any other advertising industry. I mean, could you afford a TV ad on par with Microsoft? So this is proof that with the right tools, you can really compete with the big guys. And we're going to tell you how today. So first we're going to talk about how to write compelling ad copy.
Yeah, I think ad copy is one of the fundamental ways that anyone doing pay-per-click can kind of get an advantage over their competitors. The ads on Google and Yahoo and Bing are all very short. You have about 25 characters for a headline, 35 characters for each body line of copy, so you have to write very concise ads. The things that are important to focus on is to make sure you've got a really clear value proposition. How is your product or service different from the other people on the page? Go look at what other advertisers are saying. Make sure that your ad sticks out. Is it that you have a lower price point or a more robust service, or you have a free shipping offer? Whatever it is, make sure that value proposition is pretty clear.
Sometimes it might be that you're local or you're organic, just whatever it is that you think will make you stick out, compared to the other advertisers on the same page.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the call to action.
Yeah, and this ends up being typically your second line of copy in the body of your ad is this call to action and this concept of telling the searcher what you want them to do when they get to the website, whether it's download your free white paper, or submit a lead for a free estimate on a service, or actually buying a product. You want to be very clear about what the action is you want them to take, so when that user does click and visit your site, they kind of have in the back of their head what they're supposed to do. You find this helps both your click-through rate, but it also will help ultimately drive more conversions or more actions on your website.
So we'll talk about localization. This is a good way to get people who are in the area interested in clicking on your ad.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of small businesses, this idea of beating Goliath is about having your local business compete with national businesses. And Google has documented that they see anywhere from 10 to 15% better click-through rate on local ads versus national ads. And one of the reasons for that is they actually highlight your location. You can see with this red arrow. This advertiser's in Colorado, and they've got the ads targeted to Colorado. So when a search is done in Colorado, it actually appends that state name, and in some cases a city name, to the advertisement. It's more likely to draw a searcher's eye, and people like dealing with local businesses. They like knowing that there's someone across town that will be accountable, that they can return the purchase if they're unhappy or whatever the case may be. So setting up local campaigns for your local business is going to help you to get more clicks.
So let's also talk about phone number insertion. This is kind of a new thing in Google AdWords, and it's also a way for you to get free clicks.
Yeah, I mean, I really like this if you have a type of business that responds well and you're able to take orders or communicate with your customers by phone. I think having your phone number in the ad copy is actually a really awesome feature, and Google's been great about this because from Google's perspective, they may actually make less money because in this example ad, they put the phone number in the advertisement. A user could essentially call that phone number without ever clicking on the ad. And so if you were that advertiser, you don't pay anything for the impressions. You would get to show your ad with your phone number. Someone would call you straight away, and you paid zero for that phone call.
So another expert strategy for writing ads is dynamic keyword insertion. Dynamic keyword insertion is a way to use a variable in place of a keyword so that the exact phrase someone searches for will appear in the ad. And this is kind of a complicated concept, but it can work really, really well in your favor.
Yeah, this is getting to be more of like a PPC pro trick, but it's become more widely used on, I think, all three of the search engines. Google kind of pioneered this as well. So the idea is you'll see the syntax with the squiggly brackets and then keyword and then colon and a title statement. That's the way you enter it into Google as your title. What Google's going to do is say if the word that the people searched, and in this example, good online marketing, fits the parameters, then go ahead and use the actual search term as the ad headline. And this is great because when people see exactly what they typed into the search box as the title of your ad, they're way more inclined to click. They feel that this ad must be really relevant to their needs. But there are some issues when the search term is way too long or it has inappropriate characters, like the example you're looking at now, where to find good online marketing, that doesn't fit their 25-character criteria. So in that case, they use the default, which was set as simple online marketing. So they'll either use the term that the searcher used or your default, and in a lot of cases, you can see click-through rates go up pretty significantly by using the dynamic keyword insertion.
So there are a couple of specific rules that you need to follow. You need to make sure to keep your ad groups focused and be sure not to combine this dynamic keyword insertion trick with broad match keywords because, as you can see, some mistakes can happen.
Yeah, I mean, this is the downside of dynamic keyword insertion and something that gets overlooked even by big advertisers, and this is a great example. An advertiser as big as Amazon has used dynamic keyword insertion, but they've paired it with a broad match phrase. So you might guess that the phrase they were really targeting was buy children's books, but in this example, someone typed in the word buy child, and that actually got inserted as the dynamic keyword for this ad. So now their ad reads buy child at Amazon. Obviously, it makes no sense. It's laughable, but it's also not the best for your business. That's not. If you can spend your money more smartly, you're going to be able to outperform big advertisers like this.
So there actually is a way to check to see if your dynamic keyword insertion is working properly. You can go into Google AdWords and create this special report called the Search Query Performance Report. And what you can do is you can look at the terms that people are actually searching for.
Yeah, so we haven't covered exactly what it means to do phrase and exact or broad match, but the basic rule of thumb is if you've got a keyword submitted to Google, the default position is broad match. That means they can match your actual search term that you're trying to buy with several permutations on that term. This report will show you what all those permutations are. So in the case of buy children's books, it's helpful for you to know that Google might actually pair that with the search term buy child. And you can avoid that by either turning it into a phrase match, which is just putting quotes around the search term itself, or you can add negative keywords to eliminate outliers like buy child.
So let's talk about long-tail keywords. Long-tail keywords are a great way to get much, much expensive clicks and much more targeted clicks.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty core strategy when you talk about David versus Goliath. You've got a lot of advertisers that are pretty lazy about their keyword research. They've got maybe one or two marketing people that sit in a room and they try to think of the top-of-mind keywords that people are going to use to look for their business. And they end up coming up with a pretty short list of keywords, and that list of keywords is the same list that all their competitors are buying. And the way Google works, it's all based on the competition for one term. So if you want to be in a top position for a very competitive term, it's going to be much more expensive. So when we talk about the long-tail keywords, that's really a concept about going out and doing deep research, figuring out every permutation for how someone might look for your business. Within that, you're going to find keywords that are maybe literally longer phrases, 3, 4, 5 words, that get less monthly searches, but they're much less expensive, and in many cases more highly targeted than the general terms that get a ton of volume for the business. So spending some time and really doing the keyword research, pulling out good keywords that, yeah, they might not get 10,000 clicks a month, but if you've got 1,000 of them and they each get 3 or 5 or 10 clicks a month, you've added a lot of value to your campaign.
So let's talk about how a paid search campaign takes a certain amount of tending, and leaving it unattended can be disastrous for your campaign. It can be tempting at the beginning of a campaign, for example, in Google AdWords, to accept the suggested first page bid estimate and just leave it. But the market is dynamic, so things move around a lot. Bid prices will change. Your ad could move up and down the first page position. So let's talk about some of the things that will happen to your campaign if you leave it alone, and what you should work on a regular basis.
Yeah, I think search, as it's matured, it's still in this phase where it's getting demystified. A lot of people think that it takes these crazy strategies to execute search well, and one of the things that you find out the more you've been doing search is that it's less about this mystical secret sauce, and it's more about dedication. It's about logging in often to see what's happening in your campaign. And this is because the marketplace is so dynamic. You could see your position for one of your top keywords change 3 or 5 or 10 times in one day. You could see different results if you're testing a few different ads. So it's important to have kind of high touch with your search campaign. You don't have to be in there an hour every time you log in, but you should be logging in once or more per day for short increments, and tending your garden, adjusting your bids, maybe testing some new ad copy. One of the rules of thumb that we use is to really test bid changes. Google kind of hides the exact pricing because that's how they make more money. So you want to figure out, if you want to move from position 3 to position 2, do you need to increase your bid price by 50 cents? Do you need to increase it by $1? And you don't really know. They don't give you a clear pathway. So we suggest you kind of move your bids in either 10-cent or 10% increments, depending on the cost of your keywords. You move them, you document what position you're getting, you let it run for a bit, and then you check it again. So it's this kind of process of consistent test and refine. And it's a long, painful process, but that's going to be how you really get to an optimal pricing position and the best results.
It also pays to split test your ad copy. So you could try and see which of your ads are performing.
Yeah, I mean, any campaign should have at least 2 ads per ad group, and what we often do is have anywhere as many as 3 or 4 ads running, and Google will show you which ad is performing the best. So you may start with 3 or 4, you may refine that and just keep the top 2 ads and then write 2 new ads. So you're constantly testing and refining, and you should see the click-through rate for your ads continue to ratchet up and up.
So let's talk about run times. Across all of the ad networks, you have the option to run your ads during specific times of the day or the week. So why is it valuable to do this?
So, run times are important, and I think they're highly overlooked. I would guess that, anywhere from 85 to 95% of advertisers have their campaigns running on the default position of 24/7. And the issue with that is there may be much lower traffic or much lower conversion between midnight and 6 a.m. Or maybe Sundays are really bad for your business, but Mondays are great. How do you learn to identify those patterns? So you have to establish a baseline, which involves running your ads, unfortunately, 24/7 for probably 30 to 60 days. And then as they're running, you can develop a data set that will let you see the peaks and valleys of when things were performing well, and when things were underperforming. And then Google and Yahoo, Microsoft as well, will all let you tailor your bids to the times that are most important. And probably the easiest way to identify these times is through the use of Google Analytics. Google Analytics is a really powerful tool. It's easy to put on the site, and it's free, and you can get really good, deep data on, what times of day you're seeing your peak traffic, what days of the week you're seeing peak traffic, if there's seasonality in your business. So there's lots of interesting things about Google Analytics, and I think we've got some examples of some reports. Yeah, so this is, a short window of time, but here's an advertiser who's got a very clear indication that, Saturdays are a very important day for their business. And so you might look at this and make some decisions and set your runtimes based on that data. Again, some information around the time of day. Now, you want to look at least 2 weeks worth of data to get something that's starting to look statistically significant. Make sure the trends are there and keep an eye on it. I like going at least 30 to 60 days to get a really solid baseline. But identify what's working, identify the times that work for you, because you're not going to have the same big budgets that Dell and Microsoft and HP are going to have. So you need to spend your money wisely, and part of that's about targeting the right days and the right time of day to run your campaign.
And there should be some early indicators, even in that first exploratory period. You should be able to see things like bounce rate, which will tell you if somebody is visiting your site and then immediately leaving. And that should be an indicator that maybe that's a time of day. If you have a super high bounce rate during a certain time of day, that maybe people aren't converting on your website.
That's a great point, Anna. Google Analytics makes bounce rate just readily available. You can see it at a keyword level. You can see it at a campaign level. So you can see it over these times of day. So yes, you might have gotten, a high traffic volume at a certain time of day, but are those visitors staying, or are these late night visitors that maybe are looking for something else, they came to the site and they left immediately? Bounce rate's going to tell you some of that.
So Google Analytics is an amazing tool, as Matt mentioned. It's free. You can use it to track things all over the web, not just in Google. And if you'd like to learn more about how to use Google Analytics, you should join us next month for our free webinar about how to use Google Analytics. We'll get really detailed about custom reporting and tracking and all the expert strategies that you can use to improve your PPC campaigns. So this will all be covered next month. Next time I think we should talk about the importance of network testing. Is Google the only network for your business, or are there some other things that you can try?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Google gets so much press in the search industry, and they are the lion's share of the market. Anywhere from 60 to 70% of all searches are done on Google, depending on whose numbers you tend to like. But Yahoo and Bing both offer some strong programs in terms of advertising. They have a decent market share, and in some verticals, because they're less competitive than Google, you can actually achieve lower pricing and still get pretty good conversions. And I think, we've seen some activity, especially in Bing in the last year. They've really started to target some specific verticals.
Yeah, they've been shown to be strong in areas like travel, health, e-commerce, and local business. And their searchers tend to be affluent. So you could really be missing out by sticking just to Google.
Yeah, it's, it can be painful to learn all three systems because they each do things slightly differently, but people that become experts on Bing and Yahoo can really have an advantage, where some of the big players, they only go and they do their whole budget spend on Google. You could find some real great conversion channels on Yahoo that other people are overlooking.
So here's the thing. You have all the weapons you need now to go head-to-head with the Goliaths in online advertising. It's very possible for businesses to do this themselves, but we've learned that it is really time-consuming, and there's a good deal of expertise involved across platforms. So if we could take a minute, we'd like to show you what Trada does. We've solved all of these problems.
Yeah, the idea for Trada, before we talk about specifically what we do, came from this exact process. This was kind of the genesis of Trada, was that we were doing all these things, and to write good ads and constantly tend your bidding strategies and research long-tail keywords, and then to do that across multiple networks, even somebody who's got the expertise, it's a very tedious process, and that's kind of where Trada sprang from.
So the way that we've decided to approach this problem is we use a crowdsourced model. So if you were to go with Trada, you would have dozens of certified PPC experts working on your campaign at the same time. They already know how to write the best ad copy, leverage dynamic keyword insertion, when to log in, and this is their job. So they have time to do it all the time. They know how to create low-cost, long-tail keywords, and because there are so many of them working on your campaign at the same time, they're able to come up with things that a single person could never come up with. The best thing about Trada is that there are no fees. As an advertiser, you're paying what you would be paying in AdWords, Yahoo, and Bing anyway, and you have control. You can specify your budget, the ad networks you want to run on. It's very simple to run on all 3 ad networks as opposed to the way that it would be doing it yourself, where you would have to teach yourself how to use 3 different ad networks. You specify the price you're willing to pay for a click or a conversion, and as soon as you join Trada, the experts in our marketplace, we have hundreds of them, begin working on your campaign. They start adding keywords. They can create vast numbers of keywords and ads where you, working alone, would simply not have enough time to do this. So on average, your campaign will have 25 paid search experts, 2,600 keywords, and 110 ads. Now, comparatively, the average small to medium-sized businesses Google ad campaign last year had 2 ads and 25 keywords. So this is a pretty vast improvement. So obviously we suggest that you try Trada. There are no fees. So we would love to answer some questions. It looks like we actually already have one question here, and I think I will field this one over to Matt. Google's first page bid estimate is high. Should I accept it?
So, you're always in conflict with Google. They're great because they have all this search volume and it's a great marketing medium, but they make suggestions that promote their own business. So they're always going to give you a pretty high first page bid estimate. They want you to bid aggressively. It's better for them. But I think the real idea is, figuring out what position is going to work best for your business. You have to kind of, you don't want to necessarily just jump and take a high bid price. You want to figure out if there's a sweet spot. If you get better clicks and better conversions in position, 4 or 5 than you do in position 1 or 2. And there's a lot of reason for that. Top bids and first page, first position results, you get a really high abandon rate. People just kind of click impulsively, and then they back out. And so you get a high abandon rate, and you've wasted more money driving those people to the site. So some people will find that positions 3 or position 5 is really the best place for their business. So I just use the first page bid estimate as kind of a guide.
It sounds like it's a good place to start. So here's another question. If you include the advertiser's phone number in the ad copy, do you run the risk of driving down the quality score and thereby increasing your costs?
It's a great question, right? So quality score is comprised, it's a Google-specific metric, and it's supposed to show you how relevant the keyword is to the ad and how relevant the combination of keyword and ad are to the landing page. Now, one of the things that they look at when evaluating quality score is the click-through rate. So if you put your phone number in the ad, by definition, you're getting less clicks. So if you get less clicks, then your click-through rate will fall, and essentially your position could fall. It doesn't necessarily drive up cost, but you may find that you're appearing in a lower position on the results page. To me, if phone calls are important to your business, that's a trade worth making, but I think every advertiser has to answer that question for themselves.
So here's a question I think I can answer, and I believe it's about Trada. Is this something a single entrepreneur can use to start an AdWords campaign, and what sort of starting budget is needed? So at Trada, we don't charge any fees to the advertiser, but we do cater to sort of small to medium-sized businesses. So if you're spending $3K per month to about $50K per month, and sometimes more, you're a really good fit for Trada. Obviously, a lot of small businesses run smaller budgets, budgets of $1,000 a month. But we find that with our crowdsourced model, it really works better to have more opportunity to explore.
Yeah, I agree. You know, with less than a $3,000 budget, we do in some cases, you know, take those campaigns and get them working in the marketplace. We just find that we get less optimizer adoption. You know, instead of having 15 or 20 people work on your campaign, you might only get 3 or 5. So you get a little bit less of the value that Trada brings to the table. And also it takes us a whole lot longer to understand the data. Depending on what your cost per click is, if you only have a $1,000 budget, you just might not see that many clicks over the course of the month. If you have 1,000 keywords and you're paying $1 per click, that means every keyword only gets 1 click over the entire month. It could take you months to start to understand what's working. So we suggest budgets starting at about $3,000.
So this is another question about Trada. What languages can we work with?
So right now we're working specifically with English language campaigns. We do deploy them worldwide to English-speaking regions. So we do English language campaigns targeting the UK, Australia. We even do some English language ads in Switzerland and other European countries. As Trada expands and our optimizer community continues to grow with more optimizers that are native Spanish speakers or, you know, native Chinese speakers, we will certainly venture into that international mode where we write foreign language ads. Right now, the marketplace isn't big enough. We don't have enough experts that we could trust that we would deliver an excellent Spanish language campaign.
Here's a question that I can answer. Is a copy of this presentation slide deck available? Absolutely. I would be thrilled to give it to you. Just send me an email, and my email address will actually be on the next slide. Here's one. Matt, can you talk a bit on strategies for converting clicks?
So, you know, conversions are different for every advertiser, right? Some people may want to just drive leads for their business. Some people may actually be trying to sell a product online. The idea, you know, is that ultimately you want to be conversion focused with your campaign. So you're going to start by delivering a lot of clicks. You need the clicks to understand what converts and what doesn't. From there, you trim out keywords that are delivering clicks but not conversions. And specifics around how do you get those clicks to convert, that's really about the page that you're driving the traffic to. Don't send users just to your home page where they've got to, you know, navigate 3 or 4 different levels to get to the action you want. Make sure that you're targeting exactly where they get to land. Make sure there's a call to action on that page. If you want them to submit a lead to, you know, get a free estimate for your construction company, make sure that's available to them with only 1 or 2 clicks. If you hide that stuff or make it difficult where they have to navigate to the contact us, those clicks are almost never going to convert. So, you know, that's on a kind of a one-off basis. Everyone has a different kind of conversion goal and conversion method. So I can't say that there's one, you know, ace way to do it, but I think, you know, you do need to test and refine. You need to make sure that your ads are targeting appropriate landing pages on the site. Those are just general best practices.
You can actually test your landing pages too. I know that just in our own advertising campaigns, I was able to see that a specific page on our own Trada website was converting higher, you know, than the others by a huge amount. And so I started sending most of my ads to that page, and it really helped increase our conversions. So we have a couple more questions. I know it's important to be on the first page, but is it worth paying for the first position?
I think we covered this a little bit with the first page bid estimate stuff. As a rule of thumb in Trada, we almost never put advertisers in the first position. We find that abandon rate goes way up. Now, the one caveat to that is if you're really working on a branding campaign where you really just want to get a lot of eyeballs on your URL and your messaging, then, you know, maybe the first position is a good fit. Most of the time, we see fewer clicks but higher conversion rates at positions 3 to 5. And the reason for that is if you picture the layout of a Google results page, if they're looking at position, an ad that's in position 3 or 5, they've probably taken the time to actually read that ad a little more carefully, and they're driven more by the call to action. So they're going to jump on and follow through with that, as opposed to ads in the first and second position at the top of the page. People impulse click on those and then just back out.
Okay, here is a question. Does Trada provide any guidance if I'm going to run a campaign through Trada? Absolutely.
Yeah, you typically, all advertisers in the Trada marketplace start by talking to an account manager, someone like myself who comes from the agency world, comes from having done a lot of pay-per-click search strategy in the past, and we'll help you define the strategy for your campaign. And from there, you enter the campaign into the marketplace. You're always able to contact someone at Trada to make changes, but we also encourage that you interact with the actual optimizers working on the campaign. These aren't, anonymous faces. These are people who join the campaign. They tell you their first and last name. You get to see all their results, and you can email them directly through the application. So if you have a question on something, or if you want feedback on your landing page, you now have 20 experts that you can ask their opinion on that stuff, and that's really the power. Obviously you may have setting issues or things with billing, you need to change a credit card. You'll always have a resource that you can call at Trada to talk about those things.
And there are no fees for that, actually. It's, the account management is included in everything. Okay, let's move to this next question, which is actually about that. No fees, what does that mean? So as a Trada advertiser, you'll be running your campaigns through our Trada marketplace and our Trada interface. And our PPC experts will be trying to generate clicks and conversions for less than what you are willing to pay. So when you start out in the Trada marketplace and our account managers help you get set up, they will help you determine a realistic bid goal for clicks and conversions. And you can come in to Trada with a predetermined idea of what that might be, or if you're new to paid search, we can sort of do the research and help you figure out what that might be. And what our optimizers will do is they will work on your campaign separately and together, all at the same time, but each on their own interface. And they will try and get clicks and conversions for less than what you were willing to pay, and then they will keep the difference. So maybe
I can help give an example. So if you as an advertiser come in and you're willing to pay 50 cents a click, and you've got an idea of how many clicks you'll need to get a conversion, we set all of that stuff up. Now if an optimizer spends a lot of time and they're getting in there and they're doing all that great long tail keyword research and writing a bunch of ads, if they're able to deliver clicks for 35 cents, you are willing to pay 50, they keep that 15-cent spread. And that's how the pricing works at Trada. Now you are able to adjust your bid prices as an advertiser if you find that you've overpriced or underpriced. All that stuff is flexible, but we do want all advertisers to understand these optimizers obviously need some motivation to work on the campaign. And I would say on average optimizers make about 10 to 18% as a rough number on the clicks that they manage.
Here's a question. I have read that we can't guarantee a position on Google. Is Trada able to do that?
We don't. I mean, again, that gets back to kind of the moving target, and one of the reasons why search is rather complex. So if unless you're willing to spend an unlimited cost per click, you can't really guarantee a position. You may start the campaign and this keyword triggers an ad, and that ad only has 4 competitors for that keyword. So early on it may be very easy to hold a position of 2 or 3, but over time you may find that other advertisers have uncovered this keyword, thus making it more competitive. Now you have 8 or 10 people competing. Unless you're constantly willing to raise or lower your bid price, it's hard to guarantee any sort of position.
So I think that is all the questions that we have for now. Thank you so much for attending our webinar. I'm so I'm so pleased that you all showed up. You are actually welcome to email us. If you'd like a demo, you can send an email to sales@trada.com. Matt, thank you so much for being here.
Of course, it was fun.